Driving east toward Middletown, Route 230 parallels the electrified tracks of the former Pennsylvania Railroad. Today, two railroads share this right-of-way, Amtrak on the two tracks closest to us, and the Norfolk Southern Royalton branch on the far track. Up ahead are the remnants of the Fruehauf branch, named after the famed truck trailer manufacturer which had a plant north of here near the Pennsylvania Turnpike until 1989. Beyond this point, the track is ripped up with the Penn State University Harrisburg campus built over top of it. This track seemingly goes to nowhere, though the Middletown and Hummelstown Railroad uses this stub on occasion for headroom when shifting cars at the interchange. While I was gathering these shots, a westbound Keystone train passes by with an unusual double-headed consist with no cab car and an extra coach. On the other side of the tracks is Harrisburg International Airport, where a new station is being constructed at Ann Street by the water tower, progressing quite well on this day in February 2021. Today, my destination is over by the existing platform further east in town, which will be closed when the new one opens. As discussed in the previous video, this is not ideal terrain for a station. A banked curve with a low platform only on one side, making it difficult for passengers to get on and off the train. We're 94.7 miles west of Philadelphia at Amtrak's Roy Interlocking, named for the town of Royalton on the other side of the Swatara Creek from Middletown. That green signal on the far track lets us know we have a Norfolk Southern train coming east out of Harrisburg, a not-so-common occurrence during the day on the Royalton branch, but an upswing in Baltimore export coal traffic originating in western Pennsylvania mines has led to an increase in train volume on both the Royalton branch and the Port Road branch, which runs out of Anoa on the other side of the Susquehanna River. However, this train is 632 off the R.J. Corman in Keating from the remote mountains of north-central Pennsylvania. It then travels down the Buffalo line to Harrisburg, staying on this side of the river to the Royalton branch, splitting off to the right at Roy to access the Port Road to Amtrak's Northeast Corridor to Baltimore. Seeing trains on electrified or formerly electrified territory is certainly a personal favorite of mine, and a stark contrast from the nearby former Reading Railroad main line you may be familiar with in my Harrisburg line videos. If this train looks haphazardly loaded, it's because there are no coal tipples at any of the mines on R.J. Corman, just a person driving a front-end loader filling hoppers one bucket at a time, giving this uneven profile not seen on most coal trains today. Back on 441 I give chase, though I'm a bit behind because I had to go the opposite direction to get across the tracks. You can see that this route once had overhead wires, but it was ripped out several decades ago when Conrail switched to diesel locomotives. The poles still stand because the wires up top carry the electric produced by a dam downstream to the Amtrak substation in Royalton. I catch up to the train around 3 Mile Island, the infamous nuclear power plant which is finally undergoing decommission on the remaining reactors. I barely get ahead of them at Ray Street and Bainbridge, which is apparently getting new crossing signals. Track speed on the Roy is 50, and it looks like they're getting close to that speed, making it a difficult chase, though they'll soon have to slow down for the switches to enter the Port Road at shocks. I continue down 441 and spot the hoppers through the trees at Shocks, where the Port Road meets the Royalton branch after crossing the Shocks Mills Bridge to this side of the river. The switches to get on or off the Roy at Shocks are limited to 25 miles per hour, allowing ample time to pass the train even though the railroad has a more direct path along the river, while my chase route takes me over Chickies Ridge at Marietta. Descending the hill into Columbia, we're greeted with a view of the Susquehanna River's widest section in the distance at over 1.5 miles wide.
Turn right to stay on Pennsylvania 441 South.
On the right of the new 441 bypass was once a busy shop and yard that is more or less empty these days, except to store maintenance equipment. I'm coming up to Cola Tower, where I'll set up for my next shot. The 1938-built tower once manually controlled this giant interlocking, as well as CTC operations as far as Tome to the east and Shocks and Jeb to the west. Also, the Columbia branch to Lancaster, which splits off on our right. This plate drawing from 1963 shows how the interlocking was set up, though many of the tracks and switches have been removed, including Olive Manor interlocking and siding. The Columbia Secondary is now one track with several customers between here and Lancaster. I am currently standing between where Manor siding would have joined the main to my right and another track that would have connected to the Columbia branch on my left. I continue down 441 where Manor siding would have been. It's easy to tell where additional tracks were by the gap left in the span of the poles. Waiting for the whole train at Cola cost me a shot at Washington Borough, but no worry as I'll be back here for trains on another day, which I'll post soon in a video about trains on the Port Road. I caught up to the mid-train and pace it down to Borough, where I pick up a friend before continuing to the next shot at Peach Bottom. We've already chased this train 24 miles, and the next shot will be another 25 miles by rail or 30 miles on the road as we go out and around. We pass under the former Acklen and Susquehanna branch at Smithville, abandoned by Conrail in 1989, now the Enola low-grade trail. Windy back roads take us back toward the river.
Turn right onto Peach Bottom Road.
Even though 632 has a more direct route, we managed to beat them by about 10 minutes. Peach Bottom's two atomic 1,308 megawatt reactors sit across the river from here. We're 17 miles from Perryville, and in a couple miles, 632 will cross into Maryland. There's 3 tunnels around the border, Williams Tunnel exactly 1 mile to the east, Fraser Tunnel on the Maryland side of the state line, and finally Wildcat Tunnel a half mile below there. Neither are easily accessible and require a long hike, so I make use of my long zoom lens to see them entering the Williams Tunnel. The temperature is warming up since the start of our chase, reaching a few degrees above freezing. There's reports of rain over Baltimore heading our way, and we could feel the dampness moving in over the river. Our plan is to keep heading south toward the Northeast Corridor despite a possible snowstorm or freezing rain heading our way. We catch up to them stopped at Tome in the town of Port Deposit, though we're not sure why. It's possible Amtrak won't be ready to handle them for a while, so rather than take them down to Perryville, NS holds them here so they don't block the water treatment plant crossing at Minnick. We relocate to the station in Perryville, a stop for Mark, the Maryland Area Regional Commuter Service, running weekdays to here from Washington, D.C. It's a Saturday, and since Amtrak does not stop here, we have the platform all to ourselves, accompanied by everyone's favorite anti-loitering music. But there's other background noise here that catches our attention. The discernible rumble of an idling GE diesel in the distance. I don't railfan the Northeast Corridor much, and if you could believe it, this is my first time trackside along the NEC in 10 years, but even I know the sight of a P-42 locomotive around here is rare. One of the regionals had a motor failure, and this unit came out of Wilmington to the rescue and sat on the siding all night. They took a coach with them because a pair of light engines are restricted to 50, whereas a coach makes them a train capable of running track speed. Perry Tower still stands, built in the 1940s and once controlled Perry to Tome on the Port Road, and Prince to the north and Grace and Oak to the south on the NEC. It's starting to rain, which isn't good because the temperature is dropping back to freezing. Below us in Baltimore, there's reports of ice causing all sorts of issues on the roads and Amtrak, so our optimism of chasing 632 any further south shrinks by the minute. We trekked this far, so I figured it best to film the Amtrak action. Perry is about halfway between Baltimore, Maryland and Wilmington, Delaware, and trains take 20 to 25 minutes to get here from departing these stations. You can see the heat waves rising from the switch heaters as Northeast Regional 82 comes off the Susquehanna River Bridge. Switch heaters, otherwise known as snow melters, do just that by burning propane or electric hot air blowers to keep snow and ice from forming in the switch points, ensuring their effective movement and locking into position when in use. Next up is southbound Acela 2249, approaching at about 80 miles per hour. Track speed over the bridge is limited to 90, and 125 speed resumes south of the bridge. Finally at 12 noon, an hour and a half after 632 stopped at Tome, we heard some good news from NS Riverline dispatcher about them bringing the train down to Perry.
32, they should be ready for you. You might get stopped again there at Ostego Street, but we'll start east here. It shouldn't be much longer. They should be ready. We'll start them east.
There's over an hour and 20 minutes until the next southbound Amtrak, which should provide them enough window to stay ahead. Diverging moves to and from the NEC are made at 15 miles per hour, and freight is limited to 30 during the day, adding to the bottleneck that the two-track Susquehanna River Bridge creates. Northbound Acela 2252 is running about 25 minutes late, and it soon becomes apparent why. After passing the camera, they slow to a dead stop. I have no idea why, but it's raining so hard that I pack up and sit back in the car. While in there, I heard over the scanner that the crew couldn't see out the windshield because so much ice built up and requested permission to stop and de-ice. This added about 15 more minutes to their delay and was another domino to fall in our plan of chasing 632.
Switch back over and talk to your dispatcher. I think they're talking about something, maybe cutting the crossing. It doesn't look like we're going to have all of our tracks back until earliest would be 5 o'clock.
That's Roger. I'll flip back over and talk to them.
The ice was getting so bad near Baltimore that a track was taking out of service. Not good news for 632 since the fleet of southbound passenger traffic is upon us. Northeast Regional 195, followed 9 minutes later by 91, the Silver Star, are both running about 10 minutes late. With only 2 tracks clear all the way to Baltimore, this seals the deal that 632 will not move anytime soon, so we stick around for the rush of trains that will be here before 2 o'clock. Also running 10 minutes behind schedule is Northeast Regional 140, giving us a frozen horn salute. In the distance, the north leg of the Y connects to Track 4, which runs for 2 miles between Perry and Prince, used by MARC trains for station stops and freights heading to Delaware. Amtrak will rarely, if ever, use Tracks 1 and 4 since they are only good for 60, so I consider myself lucky to catch a P42, Sprinter, and Acela all in one shot, complete with a shave and a haircut. 5 minutes later, northbound Acela 2254 emerges from the Susquehanna River Bridge for our last catch of the day, running on time despite the inclement weather. Before heading home, we stopped by Otsego Street to get some shots of 632 and the remainder of Perry interlocking. Rain was picking up again with temperatures still around freezing, so we figured it best to get our shots and call it a day. On the right is a track that once connected to the CSX Philly sub that crosses NS north of here. Now it ends in the weeds, severed for a few hundred feet near the Route 40 overpass in the distance. While NS has replaced all of the Penn-era position lights with new Vader signals on the entirety of the port road, Amtrak has neglected to replace the last PL here, though the dwarf signal has been retrofitted with LED bulbs. There's also a flange greaser here, the intent of which I am sure is to reduce wear on the switches and crossovers within Perry, though you can follow the trail of grease that has built up against the crossing shed from the westbound wheels. I get a kick out of seeing this sign, since no high-speed passenger service is on this side of Perry, nor may there ever be, and I would venture to predict the Port Road branch has a questionable future if coal traffic ever dies down, but that's a discussion for another time. I hope you enjoyed this video and tune in for more Port Road and Amtrak videos coming soon, so as always, thanks for watching.